The auction. The auction chamber glittered like a palace of gods, hanging crystal lights, domes of alien marble, and velvet seating for the most refined predators in the galaxy. Creatures from dozens of species filled the tiers: scaled Dravari lords, insectoid Hirali matriarchs, smoke-wreathed seer-victions. Wealth flowed through this place like blood through a vein. On the central stage, lit like a prize fight, two cages were wheeled out. Inside each, a human girl. One was around 11, shivering, hair tangled, clinging to the bars as though they might somehow keep her grounded. The other, a bit older, 13 perhaps, sat still, lips tight, bruises on her wrists. Her eyes didn't move. Not anymore. The crowd stirred with murmurs of desire and amusement. A Zarn announcer, 7 feet tall, for arms and breath like sulfur, stepped into the spotlight. Lot 17. Species Homo sapiens, young female specimens. Rare, feral-bred, untouched. Its mandibles clicked in anticipation. Starting bid, 40,000 Crither pearls. A ripple of excitement passed through the gallery. From the shadows high above, Tomas Rain watched. He was hidden beneath a projection shroud, kneeling in the ventilation alcove with a direct line-of-sight recording. His pulse pounded like a war drum, teeth clenched so hard they might crack. He gripped the camera stabilizer to keep his hands from shaking. He hadn't planned for this. Originally, he'd just been hired to smuggle anti-grav silencers to a rogue trader on Varkos 3. The auction was a curiosity, some black market elite thing. Maybe tech, maybe weapons. Curiosity made him check. Habit made him record. But when they wheeled out the girls, something in him shattered. Bidding began. Fast. High. A Dravari warlord doubled the price instantly. A Zarn heiress bid next, licking her glass-like fingers as she offered extra for training rights. The crowd laughed. One of the girls whimpered. Tomas didn't think. He moved. He slid backward into the shaft, pressed the emergency uplink on his belt. The feed from his ocular lens went straight into the satellite cache on his ship, the Grey Requiem, which was running a dead-drop auto-broadcast to the EarthNet underchannel. That data was already halfway home. He'd burned for this, no doubt, but he'd seen something in that girl's eyes, the older one. A look of defiance, even in chains. That kind of fire didn't deserve to die here. Earth. Within 2 hours of the leak, the footage went viral. By the 5th hour, it had reached Unified Earth Security Command. By the 6th, every human continent was on fire. Social media lit up like a war zone. Hashtag auction alive. Hashtag never again. Hashtag war for them. Celebrities sobbed on live streams. Billionaires emptied accounts into military drives. And then silence, just for a moment. The silence of fury being focused. At hour 8, President Asha Velasquez stood before a global press wall, her face calm, voice iron. We have debated. We have argued among ourselves. We have fought one another. But there is no debate today. There is no vote. We are not asking permission. The Galactic Empire has auctioned our children. Let the stars know. Humanity replies with war. Back in orbit, aboard the Grey Requiem, Tomas stared at the incoming response pings. EarthNet was ablaze. The packet had been received, decrypted, and aired. A message pinged directly to his ship's ID, coded high priority, classified, UNSCI's only. Sender, General Leon Cross. Message, we saw what you saw. Return, you're not done yet. Tomas sat back, closed his eyes. His hands were still shaking. He looked out the viewport, where distant stars burned against the black. Somewhere out there, those 2 girls were being dragged away to lives worse than death. But now the whole of humanity was coming for them. And Tomas Rain would be first in line. The declaration. The Earth Unified Assembly hadn't seen a full emergency session in over 60 years. Not during the Europa Plague. Not during the Mars riots. But today, every seat was filled. Every delegate, general, and minister summoned without delay. In the heart of Geneva's spire, beneath the transparent dome that overlooked Earth's scarred but healing surface, silence reigned. On the main holoscreen, the footage played again. The auction, the girls, the laughter, President Asha Velasquez stood at the center dais. Her expression didn't change. She didn't blink. Her brown eyes, steel-hard, scanned the room. "We will not watch this again," she said, voice low, calm. "Dangerous. You've seen it. You've all seen it. And if you can sit there after that and still talk about diplomacy, then get out. You don't belong in this room." No one moved. Around her, the chamber's lighting dimmed. Delegates looked at one another. Earth's once fractured factions now unified in a way words could never achieve. The old divisions, corporate, religious, ideological, they didn't matter now. Someone had sold human children. The rest was noise. Velasquez raised a hand. "We will now take the vote." A panel illuminated in front of each delegate. 3 options: engage diplomatically, sanction, declare war. Seconds passed. One by one, lights turned red, war. By the time the last panel dimmed, the result was unanimous, 218-0. General Leon Cross, Supreme Commander of Earth's Orbital Defense Forces, stood silently in his war room above low Earth orbit. Tall, cold, dressed in charcoal gray battle command dress, he watched the stream from the assembly on one screen while battle maps flickered across the others. The fleet's mobilization was already underway. Old hulls were being pulled from orbital graveyards and refitted. Mars shipyards, dormant for decades, roared back to life. AI-managed logistics swarmed with orders. Kinetic platforms, stealth corvettes, railgun munitions, fusion lance arrays. Across the solar system, every military satellite pinged back the same signal: green for war. Behind him, his aide whispered, "Sir, initial projections say they outnumber us 20-1. Cross in turn. Then it's a fair fight." The Galactic Council, a bloated body of over 300 species, all tangled in layers of bureaucracy and power games, met days later, scoffing at the humans' declaration. A Zarn delegate hissed through its translator, "Earth is still a Tier 2 civilization, a minor species, arrogant and reactionary." The Dravari ambassador chuckled in reply, "They're emotional. They'll strike a few outposts, then sue for peace." Only the Tvari remained silent. A reptilian race long enslaved and later civilized by the Empire, their ambassador stared at the human footage again, unmoving. "They are not posturing," he said finally. "They are burning." On Earth, every screen in every time zone lit up as President Velasquez took to the podium again. She wore black, no flags, no medals, just mourning. Her voice, however, was unshakable. "You asked what humanity is capable of. You laughed when we joined your councils. You spat on our calls for justice. You auctioned our daughters. Now, we show you what a united Earth means. We will not be the victims of history. We will not beg for justice from those who profit from our pain. We will take it. To every species that believes in chains, be afraid. To every world that cheered during that auction, remember the faces of those girls. We do, and we are coming." On the carrier UNS Torchbearer, Tomas Rain stood on the observation deck as the ship broke orbit. The fleet stretched across the black like a web of vengeance. Over 100 vessels already, with more arriving by the hour. Mars gunships, Europa stealth corvettes, Earth's rebuilt dreadnoughts from the Soul Wars, now burning bright with fresh reactors. His hand pressed against the glass. He remembered their faces. The smaller one with the trembling fingers. The older one with the defiant eyes. He didn't know their names, but he didn't have to. He would carry them with him into every firestorm. "Find them," he whispered, and in the dark, the stars whispered back. Fire and steel. They came without warning. No declarations, no negotiations, no mercy. The UNS Torchbearer, flanked by 3 stealth corvettes and a dreadnought from Mars High Command, emerged from slipspace just above Delvax's prime. The neutral auction world where the atrocity had taken place. A world known for its lavish pleasure districts, neutral treaties, and black market immunity. Now it burned. Human orbital platforms decloaked and dropped kinetic rods, city-shattering tungsten spears at terminal velocity. No energy weapons, no flashy beams, just raw physics raining down like judgment. Within 6 minutes, half the capital was glassed. The alien governor's palace, where the two girls had been sold, was reduced to ash and crater. Survivors tried to broadcast distress calls, but Earth's cyberwar AIs, nicknamed God-Eaters, jammed every signal, rewrote every system. Ships tried to flee. Most didn't make it. A few did. That was intentional. Humanity wanted the galaxy to know. In the war room aboard the UNS Vindicator, General Leon Cross watched the strike in silence. The operation, Verdict Dawn, had gone exactly to plan. Civilian casualties are high, his aide muttered, voice uncertain. Cross didn't look away from the screen. They were at the auction. They cheered. A pause. They weren't civilians. He turned away from the display. Next target. On Earth, the footage was released instantly, intentionally. No attempt was made to hide it. No spin, no carefully edited version for the galactic community. Just raw footage. The kinetic strikes. The mushrooming dust clouds. The auction hall's destruction. And finally, a transmission spliced over the flames, Velasquez's voice. This is the price. You will not sell our children. You will not cage our daughters. Not without fire falling from the skies. The galaxy was stunned. To many, Earth had been a backwater, loud, unrefined, but irrelevant. Now it was something else. Something terrifying. At the Echelon Rift, a critical trade corridor through subspace, the Galactic Empire's 7th Fleet awaited retaliation. They expected raids, maybe a failed ambush, a show of strength. Instead, they got annihilation. Human engineers, studying the rift's gravitational anomalies, had discovered a weakness in the corridor's subspace shell. Exploitable, weaponizable. Tomas Rain stood aboard the UNS Eidolon, crouched in a dropship bay with a demolition team, waiting to strike from the inside. He watched the timer on his HUD tick down. 10, 9, 8. Elsewhere, Earth's Navy baited the 7th Fleet into pursuit, drawing them straight through the rift's unstable axis. At 0, Tomas' team detonated the warhead. The rift collapsed. A localized singularity, barely the size of a battleship, ripped through space like a scythe. The entire Imperial fleet, over 40 capital ships, was torn apart, atomized in seconds. Not one human ship was lost. Galactic news feeds exploded. Human fleet destroys 7th Armada. New species deploys collapse-based superweapon. Empire demands sanctions. Earth replies with coordinates. In back channels and under encrypted forums, a new name spread, the species of vengeance. Others, quieter still, began to whisper, maybe they can win. In orbit over a former Zarn slave colony, a new operation began, Righteous Storm. This wasn't destruction. This was salvation. Black Ember Battalion, Earth's elite strike commandos, dropped into the heart of a Zarn slave camp. With plasma cutters and railguns, they tore down the walls. Liberated not just humans, but thousands of other enslaved species who had long forgotten freedom. A 6-armed Velari child cried when Tomas knelt beside her and cut her collar loose. Her skin was blistered, her eyes hollow. Tomas offered her a nutrient bar and whispered, "You're safe now." She didn't understand the words, but she nodded. One of the freed captives, a Tvari elder, stood and saluted the human soldiers. "You came for your own," the elder said, "but you found us too." Tomas looked at the ruins around them. "We came for justice. But if we have to build a new galaxy to get it, so be it." Later that night, President Velasquez received a message. A faint transmission from an intercepted merchant vessel. The 2 human girls have been spotted alive, en route to a noble estate on the Imperial core world Virellia. Velasquez stared at the star map, then looked to her inner circle. Send rain. Justice delivered. The Imperial core world Virellia shimmered with impossible beauty. Floating citadels, oceans of liquid crystal, and skies painted by artificial auroras. It was the beating heart of the Galactic Empire, where nobles lounged in luxury and cruelty wore silk robes. In one of its sky castles, surrounded by high walls and electrified towers, 2 human girls sat in a garden cage. The younger one, Lila, now barely spoke. The elder, Mara, had bruises beneath her eyes but never cried. She sat beside her sister every night, humming a lullaby neither of them remembered the words to. They were property here, exotic Terran pets. Entertainment for guests. Rare. Prized. That changed at dawn. Above the castle, a streak of flames split the sky. The humans had arrived. Tomas Rain and his fire team dropped in through the upper atmosphere in a stealth pod, cloaked by pulse jammers and orbital static. They landed hard in the estate's northern tower, cutting through marble halls like blades. Tomas moved fast, no wasted motion. His HUD flickered with life signs, encrypted comms pinging locations and scans. At his back, 2 Marines, 1 combat medic, and a Tvari tech hacker named Silek, who volunteered the moment Virellia was mentioned. "This is it," Tomas said, rounding a corner. Ahead, a sealed vault door guarded by a pair of Virelian nobles in gilded exosuits. Too late. Tomas fired first, center mass. Armor cracked like eggshell. The second noble fell with a railgun round to the throat. No warnings, no hesitation. He planted explosives on the vault, stepped back, and let the door vanish in a roar of light and stone. Inside the room, the cage, and the girls. Mara stood up slowly, trembling. She stared at the humans in armor, blood on their boots, weapons still hot, and didn't flinch. "You came," she whispered. Tomas stepped forward and knelt beside the bars. "We're taking you home." They exfiltrated under fire. Imperial palace guards flooded the corridors like ants from a cracked hive. Tomas's squad cut them down in waves, shields flaring, rifles humming. Silek rerouted the estate's AI control system, opening bulkheads, dropping force fields, scrambling enemy comms. Tomas carried Lila in one arm. She clung to him like a lifeline. Mara walked beside him, silent, eyes cold. At the roof, evac shuttles touched down in a flash of blue. The girls were loaded first. The squad fell back under covering fire, Tomas the last aboard. As the ramp sealed shut, Mara reached out and took his hand. "Did you burn the place?" she asked. Tomas looked down at her, at a girl who'd seen more horror than most soldiers. "We burned everything." Hours later, aboard the UNS Torchbearer, Mara and Lila sat wrapped in Earth-standard thermal blankets in the infirmary. The medics had scanned them, treated the worst wounds, started the trauma protocols. But no machine could fix what had been done. Velasquez herself appeared on the holoscreen. She didn't address them like victims. She addressed them like survivors. "You're safe now," she said. "We didn't forget you." Lila tried to smile. Mara didn't. Instead, she said one thing: "Don't stop." Velasquez nodded. "We won't." News of the rescue spread across the stars. On Delvaxis, the crater capital was now a human aid zone. On the slave worlds, Earth's banners flew alongside those of newly freed species. And on Virellia, the palace where the girls had been kept now burned in every galactic feed. But it wasn't just the Empire that saw. It was everyone. Races long silent under the Empire's boot began to speak, to rise. The Tvari openly allied with Earth. The Hirali broke diplomatic ties with the Council. Rebel factions from 5 species pledged allegiance to the Terran Accord. A movement had begun, not of conquest, but of reckoning. In the dark of space, aboard the Eidolon, Tomas stood alone. He looked at a photo, newly sent from Earth, of the girls now safely home. Lila was smiling again. Mara still wasn't, but she stood taller. A whisper from the corridor. "Rain. Orders just came in. New mission." He turned, sliding the photo into a chest pocket. "Where?" The Marine answered. "Anywhere there's still chains." Tomas nodded once. "Then let's break them all."